Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. Um, just one question, Mark. How did you know when you asked me to lead a sit focusing on aging that I've been going through some real aches and pains of getting older myself? Um, it's fairly timely, but seriously, meditation and mindfulness can help us navigate life as we get older. And it also helps in difficult times that we're experiencing a lot these days. Certainly, mindfulness and meditation help us calm and relax. I think a lot of people here and in general look to meditation to do that, and it's really crucial and so helpful. And there's much more that we can experience, learn to experience, and teachings that we can learn that really can enhance our lives both as we get older and at any age. So today I'd like to briefly speak about two areas that mindfulness, together with Jewish wisdom, have teachings and practices that can help us. The first is mindfulness and sitting can help us learn the difference between pain and suffering. We all have pain at times. It's unavoidable. But we don't necessarily have to suffer through that pain. We In Buddhism, there's a concept of the double arrow, the two arrows. The first arrow is the pain, maybe fear, anxiety, grief, sadness. The second arrow is the suffering that we add to that experience. And while in many cases it's hard to avoid, there are ways of ameliorating it. And I want to tell you a true story that happened to me. Some years ago, I did a 10-week program of Rolfing. Rolfing is a deep massage program, 10 weeks, and it goes into your tissues and your fascia. And sometimes there is some pain, and sometimes emotions get uncovered through the body and some of that pain. So I was on week 5. The first 4 weeks were terrific. I had some pain, but really after the sessions and for the week in between, my body felt rejuvenated, felt elongated, and all was going well. Then the 5th week happened, and the therapist was working on my legs and knees. And suddenly, I had the most excruciating pain in my knee. I have had no problems with my knees up until that point. This was really hard and really tough, and I got really, really scared. Suddenly, this person who I had confidence in, I was thinking, maybe she's not so good. Maybe she's really hurting me. And suddenly, I got so scared that this could do actual real damage to my body, and I almost had to stop and tell her and get off the table. But then I took 3 deep breaths and I said, wait a minute. I've been here 4 weeks. It's been great. I got a recommendation for this woman through friends, good friends who have all gone through this. And not only did they vouch for her, they said she was amazing and had a wonderful, wonderful experience. And suddenly, my breathing slowed down a little bit. And the most remarkable thing, the pain was exactly the same. I felt it. I felt it in the same way that I had felt it just moments before, but it didn't bother me in the same way. I felt the physical pain, but I was okay. and I was able to go through the session, which turned out to be great. And I was amazed. The ability to face pain and to work to alleviate the suffering can apply to all types of pain, not just physical, but also emotional states such as fear, anxiety, and mental thoughts such as self-criticism, wanting things to be different. And I learned that so clearly through that experience. Now, I'm not saying that we can magically, take away our pain or really live with it. But I am saying that through learning mindfulness and meditating and developing some ability to not react so fast, and to be able to pause and respond and see if there's another way of looking at a situation or even feeling about the situation is a huge help. And certainly as we get older, this is something that's an invaluable skill and ability. Many times when I see someone and they ask me how I'm doing, I say, good. And then I say, well, given the state of the world, that's really hard. It's almost as if I feel a little guilty for feeling okay. So this next teaching I want to give is, how do we experience joy in times of sadness and sadness in times of joy? We've been focusing a lot on the Omer these past 32 days. A big emphasis in the Omer period at one time in Jewish history was that it was a time of semi-mourning. It was a time that Rabbi Akiva's students supposedly had a plague and many of them died. So it was really a mourning time. And we didn't celebrate weddings. We didn't cut our hair. And I thought about that and realizing that it's Lag BaOmer tonight, which is a happy time. And then I wondered, wait a minute, we have this time of mourning right after the second day of Pesach, of Passover, a time of incredible joy, a time where we were freed from slavery. Again, a juxtaposition of sadness and joy. And there are many moments like that in Jewish culture and calendar. Tisha B'Av is a really sad time, a time of grieving, one of the most important fasts because of the destruction of the temple. And yet 1 week later, Tu B'Av is a time of love and joy, a matchmaking day for young people. Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembrance in Israel for fallen soldiers, was specifically planned to always be the day before the celebration of Israeli Independence Day. Breaking the glass at a wedding. Judaism teaches us how the possibility of holding both sadness and joy when they arise. We don't neglect either one. It's a deep teaching we are in need of today. There's a lot of sadness, a lot of turmoil, a lot of challenge, but there are also times of joy. And to be able to hold both, I think is a valuable lesson. So as we go into our sit, I invite us all to take 3 slow breaths. However that is possible for you. And let's take it together. And just notice how your body, heart, and mind are feeling. Maybe you're settled a little bit. Maybe you're not. But however you're feeling, Just take it in and try to accept this is how it is. We'll take a further moment to settle down in ways that you all have done at the beginning of these sets. And you each know what is the best way for you to settle. It could be focusing on the breath. It could be listening to sounds. It could be having an anchor that you go back to. And I'll invite you to do that. And then I will begin with a short guided meditation that I think is really helpful for this time in our lives and in the world. So take a moment and settle with your breath, perhaps in your body, perhaps listening to sounds. I'm just going to shut the door. Close your eyes if that's available to you, or have a slow gaze, a soft gaze downward. And perhaps take another 3 breaths. The practice I'm going to lead through is called Relaxing the Problem Solver. Ask this question to yourself internally. What is here now if there is no problem to solve? What is here now if there's no problem to solve? Who is here? What is aware? What is here when there's nowhere to go and nothing to do? Nothing to know or create or become. What is here just now when you are not the problem solver? Feel into what is here. What shows up here and now? Who or what is aware? What is here when there is no referencing the past, no going one moment into the future, when you're not settling into sleep and not going up to thought? What's here now? What's it like when there's no problem to solve just now? What do you notice? What is absent? What essential qualities are revealed? Take a breath and a pause, and then ask with a beginner's mind and curiosity, what is here now if there's no problem to solve? And we'll continue in silence. You can perhaps continue in this mode of releasing the problem solver, or if there's another practice you feel more comfortable doing, please feel free to do that. We all can discern what works for ourselves. You may continue keeping your eyes closed as I read a quote from John O'Donohue to end the sit. The title is Stillness and Aging. Stillness is vital to the world of the soul. If as you age you become more still, you will discover that stillness can be a great companion. The fragments of your life will have time to unify, and the places where your soul shelter is wounded or broken will have time to knit and heal. You will be able to return to yourself. In this stillness, you will engage your soul. Aging can be a lovely time of ripening when you actually meet yourself. Indeed, maybe for the first time. May it be so. Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here with all of you today.
Larry, thank you so much for your beautiful guidance today. And friends, let's seal our practice. For those who are not familiar or joining us for the first time, we end our sits with an opportunity for mourners, for those who are observing a yard site, or for whom it's the custom to join in the mourner's kaddish. To do so, you can put the name or names of anyone you're honoring today in the chat now or after we recite the kaddish. And if you're not reciting kaddish, we ask that you please stay present to support those who are. Thanks to Harry Gilboa for sharing the words of the kaddish on the screen. And if you're joining me in reciting it, please join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Hashem Rabba,
Amen.
Vayikon v'yomikon v'chayei
Beit
Beit
Israel,
Agalav
Bisman Karib, Imru, Amen.
Shemei Rabba Mevarach Alam Almei Almaya
Alam Almei Almaya.
Vayikal V'yitbavach V'yitnaseh V'yitadav V'yit'aleh V'yithalal Shemech V'yitchav Ilal Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Shbechata V'Nechemata V'Akeman Be'alma V'Yimru Amen. Hey Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chayim Aleinu Ve'Al Yisrael
Amen.
Amen.
Ishlama
Seh
Rabba
Shalom
Shemaya,
Yilmama
V'Chayim
Seh
Aleinu
Shalom Aleinu Ve'Al Yisrael
Amen.
Say shalom
Shalom Bimromav,
say shalom
Shalom
Aleinu
Aleinu, V'Chol
Kol
Yisrael,
Yoshketim
V'Chol Yoshet
Imru.
Yisrael, Imru.
Amen.
Amen.
And friends, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank Rabbi Joe Metzler for sponsoring today's practice in honor of our friend and teacher, Rabbi Jonathan Slater. Thank you, Joe, so much for that. Really just a beautiful gesture. And thank you also for your stalwart support of the Daily Sit, as always. I want to thank Harry Gilboa for holding our text space so beautifully, as always. And our teacher today, Larry Schwartz, for guiding us. We'll have some opportunity for a conversation with Larry in a moment. And I'd like to thank Dorot and Claire Solomon-Nissen for the partnership, which for these periodic jointly sponsored meditation opportunities on the theme of wise / mindful aging. We're really grateful for that. So thank you, Claire, for your partnership. Welcome to our Dorot folks who are joining us today. And again, just want to remind you, you're always welcome. The sets are available each day, Monday through Friday, no charge. And I mentioned as well that we also offer our Jewish Yoga Studio on Mondays at 11 a.m., 45 minutes of Jewish yoga for all levels, for all ages, led by the incredibly skillful Cantor Lizzie Shamash every Monday as well, to let you know that. So happy Lev Ba'omer to everyone. Lev, it's Lamed Bet of the Omer, 30, the Hebrew letter standing for 32. The heart of the Omer, we're moving tonight, as Larry mentioned, into Lag BaOmer, and Rebecca Schisler of the IJS faculty will be here tomorrow to guide us in practice and to sit in Shabbat together. So if you have a question you'd like to ask Larry, I want to invite you to put that in the chat, and I will keep an eye out for the questions. And I saw a question about how to join the Daily Sit in general. So thank you for that question. And Harry, if you don't mind putting in the chat the link for folks to sign up for the Zoom link. It is actually the same Zoom link each day. So if you have the Zoom link for today, you have that. For those of you who are joining us on Facebook or Instagram, go to the IJS website at jewishspirituality.org, and you can sign up to get the Zoom link and notifications. All right, Larry, Well, I wasn't really thinking about your aches and pains, but I just thought about you as somebody who's pretty savvy about wise aging. So, and I just wanted, I love what you did, and I want to invite us to go just to explore some of those themes a little bit, and also see if how to kind of connect the dots. I think you offered a number of different things. One is that second arrow about not tacking on suffering to pain, which you don't even really have to say like, why is that a theme for wise aging, or for any stage of life, but especially as people get older. And I guess I was thinking of that as kind of the catastrophizing voice in our minds, right? That feeds the flames of anxiety and worry, and that kicks in. So that's one. The second was that question about being honest about emotions we feel and being able to feel sad, and in a time when it feels like, well, this seems like a happy time. Why should I feel sad? Or I'd be able to feel happy or joyful at a challenging time, at a hard time, right? And about how this practice is really about being able to have both. And then I just want to like underline the question you gave us, to go into the practice of what if there is no problem to solve, and start there really, because what I got from that was, which is like I've heard that before, and it's still an aha, like where basically I realized, yes, I'm always trying to solve a problem. Maybe that's why I love, people love, and I'll say maybe especially people who are aging, love Wordle and, puzzles, looking for things to solve, right? And the satisfaction of solving the problem. And it's really countercultural to adopt this stance of no problem, or like, I don't have to solve a problem right now. So I want to relate that back to the other two things. Like I have been pain, problem, 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 problem. And so the antidote that is offered by the practice is, wait a minute, maybe and maybe not, right? And you reassured yourself in your story, by the people who had recommended this therapist to do this, right? And then also, I feel sad. I shouldn't feel sad. It's a happy time, or I feel happy, but it's such a terrible time. How can I feel happy? It's a problem to feel what I'm feeling. And so that question says, like, what if it's not a problem to feel this way, right? Or what if this pain might be a problem? It may not be a problem, right? So that's what I'm just reflecting back to you, what I heard. And it was helpful for me in sitting to kind of just notice that toggling back and forth between problems coming up and then meeting that with maybe there's no problem to solve right now. So that was the way I don't know.
Yeah.
How would you connect those dots, do you think?
Well, I can connect those dots, but I must honestly say, when I did the teaching and the meditation, I was trying to give teaching and a meditation that could really be helpful at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give you a drush on how they fit together. But what I'd rather do first is just to explain the problem solver. First of all, people have asked, what's the source of that? And that is by Locke Kelly. And we can give that information out. And it's a book. There are two books of his. One is Easing into Mindfulness, something like that, or Wisdom. I can get it. And he has many, many incredible practices that are very practical, that in fact you can do for 6 minutes, a glimpse, he calls them. And the first time I heard this, it just knocked me over. It quieted me. And I realized that identity is formed by being a problem solver. Mm-hmm. And the I create kind of wants to be a problem solver, is almost not happy when I'm not solving problems. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that when I released from that, the I disappeared. Buddhism talks about non-self, which I've never fully understood, let alone experienced. And here I came close. And I got so relaxed, and I saw my need to solve problems because that relaxed stage is almost neutral. And I remember when I first encountered neutral as compared to positive and negative, neutral was so unpleasant that I almost preferred unpleasant to being in neutral.
Right.
And not solving a problem fell a little bit into that area, though I've since worked on neutral, and actually neutral is a lot of life, and actually is a wonderful moment because you're open to the present moment and open to what's next. So I didn't answer your question. I'm not a politician and avoiding it.
No. Yeah, no, not at all. I think, no, I just want to like connect it with a question that has come up in the chat. I also see a lot of appreciation, Larry. But I think a logical question that arises is about like, well, what about the problems? What about the problems I've got, right? Or like maybe in fact you are being hurt, maybe in fact something's going wrong. So I'm going to, what I would say about that is that like that slipping into neutral, which is a good metaphor for it, is not like it's not like to stay in neutral forever, right? We don't suspend judgment forever, but it's an essential part of that pause to get to touch into that and then return to it, right? And say like, now I can actually assess, am I being really hurt? Or am I just telling myself a story that, like, can I, so it is about addressing the big problem, but it's about the necessity of stepping out of the problem for a second in order to be able to address it.
Well put. I would just add that this is not about spiritual bypassing, right? This is not about, oh, I can just drop out and not have to worry about my problems. First of all, I'll tell you that has not been my issue. My issue has been problems spinning around and me looking for some to solve. But yes, as you said, if we, how many times do we have thoughts just perseverating and spinning around, not helping us to solve any problem?
Mm-hmm.
This could be one approach of how to maybe slow down that mind. But it's a great question. It is not meant to avoid problems.
Yeah. I want to read a couple of the beautiful comments in a moment, but there is one more question that Steve asked about. Just to talk a little bit more, if you would, about pain versus suffering. How to, like your story is really quite poignant in that way, like in that moment, right? I know it. I want to add to that question too, which is when we get into that suffering / scared mode, right? For me, I would say that sometimes it feels, I can see that happening, and yet it's still very hard to get out of it, right? So I was going to ask you that question really, which may be related to what Steve is asking, which is, I can see myself feeding the flames, right? And sometimes that's enough just to see that. And sometimes it's like, and yet it has its own power, like it has its own momentum. Do you have that experience? And if so,
Oh God, yeah.
What do you do then?
So I have to admit, I was shocked when I had that experience that I described with the Rolfing. I had never experienced anything quite like that. What it showed me was, wow, there's a way, and I don't know exactly how I did it, what I did. I mean, I described what I actually did, but I don't know how that even came to me, quite honestly. But since then, knowing that there's a possibility of looking at the second arrow, looking at the fear, I have found that turning my attention to the fear actually gives me a little distance from the pain. So just doing that, if we can do that, the pain still might be there. I'm not saying it really was, but you'll have a little space, and just by looking at the fear or the anxiety or all the questions, that's a methodology that I've used a lot.
Yeah.
Does it work all the time? I wish, but it does help.
Yeah. So what I hear there is a lot of self-compassion. The prescription is a lot of self-compassion in that moment as well. It's not just the not knowing or like, shifting into neutral. That within the neutral, there's also a lot of compassion and love that is necessary to hold the fear in some way. I
Oh,
do.
can I just
Yeah,
say
please go ahead.
that's huge. Self-compassion is something I've been trying to work on for a long, long time. And on one retreat, a teacher gave me three phrases when you're really in trouble. And I have used them ever since. The three phrases are, I am feeling X,
Mhm.
fear, tremendous pain, whatever it is. Second phrase is, all humans feel fear or pain sometimes. It's a part of being human. And the third phrase is, can I be compassionate to my pain,
Mhm.
to my fear? And I put my hand on my heart. And I can't tell you how often I use that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's great. Larry, I don't know if you have the John O'Donohue quote. If you have that
Oh,
handy,
I
you
can
could
say, yeah,
put it in the chat. That would be great.
oh,
There's a lot of requests for that. Some people want to put it up on
let's see if I
their
can,
bulletin board or whatever they got.
you know what?
Um,
I don't have it.
I had found it here. Hold on. Let me. I don't know if this is the whole thing.
I edited it a little bit because it's fairly long.
Well,
Let me,
here's what it might be an excerpt here that I'll put in the chat.
it
Uh,
starts off with stillness is vital to the world of the soul.
yeah, I put it in so people can. Just a reminder, folks can. There's a lot of wonderful stuff in the chat. If you'd like to save the chat, you just click on the three dots at the top of the chat box, and you could save it to your device. And I also just want to give a shout out to Rena, who framed this in terms of the Sphirot for today.
Mm.
Today's the day of Netzach Shebahod, and if I can find Rena's lovely little draw. Here it is. Rena wrote, "My Hod came forward with the question, and my Netzach became very sad. Today is Netzach in Hod, so Hod came forward to hold Netzach and say, I understand." So just to translate that, as I would anyway, Hod is really like this. What you offered today, Larry, was just like a great Hod
Mm.
meditation. Hod this week for us represents gratitude, represents the ability to be with things as they are. In a sense, it's neutral as opposed to Netzach last week, which is
Ah,
problem solver. The voice of the problem solver is the voice of Netzach. Let's get this done. What needs to get done? What needs to get solved? And Hod is the kind of exactly your question that you presented. What if there were no problem to solve? And that is quite countercultural and quite, unusual for us to shift into that mode. And it's exactly why we're here every day to to try to remember that. So, Larry, thank you so much. A lot of appreciation from me and from everyone here for really beautiful teaching and sit today. Really appropriate, not just for wise aging, but for all ages and for our time, especially. And just very grateful. Thanks so much.
oh, thank you, Mark, and thank you for all that you've done over the last 5 years, over the last 20 years at the Institute. It's an inspiration. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Claire and Dorot. Grateful
Thank
to
you,
you guys.
everybody. It's a gift. Thank you.
Yeah, we will continue with the partnership. Look forward to that. Thanks everyone for being here. Looking forward to we'll make a bonfire tomorrow. for Lag BaOmer. I don't really know how we'll do that, but on Zoom, but we'll try. And we'll sit into Shabbat together with Rebecca Schisler, everyone. So until then, be safe, be well. Lots of blessings to everyone. Take good care.
Everybody.